So if you want to begin to grow, you've got to put something out here that you can't reach easily, that has got to make you stretch, got to make you jump for it, got to make you get back a little bit and dig in so that you can take a leap for it. And maybe you jump up there and you miss it and you skin your knees and you come back again and you bust your lip next time. But you keep on, and through that process, you learn how to leap higher. You start challenging yourself to dig deeper, and then you discover some things about you that you don't know right now, some talents that you have in you that you didn't know that you can do. So do the right thing. There might be a tendency sometimes, because of the negative part of our consciousness and our own programming, for us to want to say, well, I'll just do it this time. It won't matter. Won't nobody know. Ladies and gentlemen, everything matters. And you know you're somebody. You know. I'd rather lose out on my dream doing the right thing than to cheat trying to make a shortcut to get to my goal. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror. And that's what you want to do. There's no saying, judge a man not by what he does, but by that he doesn't have to do. And to judge the true quality of a man is what do you do when nobody's looking. See, there's some good out there for you in the universe that has your name on it. And nobody can get your good. It has your name on it. They can't take your stuff. It's your stuff. So when you know that whatever you're seeking, it's also seeking you, you don't worry. You don't run scared. You don't think somebody's going to take it from you. You listen to your inner voice, and you always take the high road. There will be the tendency, the natural inclination to take the low road. You must resist that. Repeat after me, please. I will always take the high road and do the right thing no matter what. If you had 6 months to live, what would you do differently with your life? What would you do differently? Would you have the same job? Would you be worried about things that you're worried about right now? Would you have the same relationships? Would you have the same people in your life? I was sitting on the House of the Ohio legislative floor. I'd just been elected for the 3rd time as the chairman of the Human Resource Committee, powerful, prestigious position, and I was reading a book on how to manage your time in your life, and it talked about what are your long-range goals 2 to 3 years from now, what are your short-range goals, 6 months goals, and then it said, if you had 3 months to live, what would you spend your time doing? So I wrote down I would spend my time, one thing, I would resign from the legislature, I would go back to Miami, and I would buy my mother a home, something I'd promised myself that I was going to do, and I had continued to procrastinate and put all kind of reasons why I couldn't do it. And I wanted to make sure that she was financially secure, my children would be financially secure, and I would do lectures, and I would go around talking to people and working with kids. That's what I said I would do. Then it turned to the next page, and it said, for all you know, you don't have 3 months to live. You might die today. So whatever you wrote on the last page, you want to spend as much of your time doing that today. So I looked at Mr. Vern Wright, the Speaker of the Ohio Legislature, and I said to the guy on my right, State Representative Mike Stenziano out of the Ohio State District, I said, Stenzi, 25 years from now, who would care what legislation we passed? He said, nobody would care 1 year from now. Now here's what was happening with me. I came to the Ohio legislature with great expectations. There are things I wanted to do. I wanted to make a change in society. I wanted to make an impact. But I was just disillusioned after being there for a while. I introduced some legislation that I'd worked months to get this legislation passed, got it out of subcommittee, voted to the major committee, and then went from there to the reference committee, and then they introduced it on the Ohio legislative floor. And this legislation was designed to provide protection for senior citizens and poor people who bought money orders. People buy money orders thinking that it's cash. But what they did not know, that there's no bond or insurance security in the event that the money order company files bankruptcy. And so this company filed bankruptcy and just left a lot of people just holding worthless paper. So I wanted to introduce some legislation so that senior citizens would not be victims of this anymore. After months of hard work, after introducing the bill and having the votes lined up, guy raised his hand, Mr. Speaker, Mr. White said, yes. He said, I'd like to introduce the amendment for Mr. Brown's bill. He said, we will hear the amendment. He said, I'd like to amend it and change the word shall to may. I said, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, may I speak, please? Yes. I said, ladies and gentlemen of the Ohio legislature, this legislation is not something we wanted to make it optional to provide protection for Ohioans and senior citizens. We want to make it mandatory. And then this guy said, no, Mr. Speaker, I just think that he's taking it a little too far. This is an honorable gesture on behalf of the state, but he's taking it too far. Let's make it optional and leave it up to the goodwill of these money order companies to provide for the protection. Let's have the vote. And they had the votes, and I lost. And I said, oh, wait, this is not why I came here. And then all of a sudden, this job that at one point had meaning to me and value, it no longer had that for me. And all of us have had some experiences where you went to a job and you were excited about that job. Boy, it had so much promise, and then you got there and so much you wanted to do. You thought it was an opportunity for upward mobility and growth and development and expansion. And all of a sudden, after you got there, you found out it was nothing but a glorified cubby hole. Old grave with no dirt on it. So it became very depressing going to work. And so that's what happened to this guy, Joe. And a lot of us have done that before. I used to get my headache start throbbing on Sunday afternoon after the Sunday afternoon football game, a basketball game. I just hated to go to work. Some days I just drive by just for nothing, just drive on by.
Forward movement, provided it doesn't endanger you or kill you, is absolutely the remedy for fear, stress, and at least in the clinical literature, to these sort of trauma events, that people carry with them for many years. Of course, trauma needs to be dealt with, hopefully with a professional, but we can all apply these mechanisms and these neurochemical reward schedules. So the study that you're referring to is a beautiful one. There's a classic study where researchers, not my lab, put two rats, or you could do this with mice, into a tube, and the tendency is for them to try and push one or the other one out. One always wins and pushes the other one out. We call the one that got pushed out the loser, the one that pushed them out the winner. Here are the interesting things about this. First of all, the winner will tend to win in other battles, even though these are just pushing battles, more because it simply won the time before. The loser, by losing, will tend to lose. And so people say, oh, well, that explains a lot about society, etc. Well, here's where it gets really interesting. You can even take a mouse or a rat and push it from behind and make it the winner. And then on subsequent trials where you're not pushing it, it will tend to win more often. So the win doesn't even have to come from itself. So last year, there was a very important paper published about this, where a set of researchers just said, well, what is it? Like, what is this winning circuit and this losing circuit? Enough with the demonstration that this happens. Like, what's happening what's under the hood? And so they went into the brain and they identified a brain area, which is part of the frontal cortex, the area that we typically think about planning, action, executive function, all the kind of high level stuff. And what they discovered was this brain area is more active in the winner than in the loser. In fact, they could take the loser and overstimulate this area and turn the losers into winners. Now, it gets even more ridiculous than that. If you quiet this brain area, winners become losers, okay? And if you take a winner and, let's say at this tube battle, and you put them into, let's say, a cold environment with a bunch of other mice, and you have just a warm corner, mice don't like to be cold, and you say, who gets the warm corner, right? Who gets the luxury spot? It's always the winner. So it even breaks down at the level of social interactions. And so you say, okay, all right, now we know that it's this brain area, it's this one area of the frontal cortex, but what's it actually doing, right? Okay, what's it actually, how can we translate this? Turns out this brain area that's responsible and required for winning in this series of experiments is actually driving up the level of activation, what you and I would call agitation or stress, to the point where that animal is more likely to move forward. It's simply taking stress, which is wired into us in order to make us feel agitated, instead of suppressing us, instead of saying, I'm just going to sit here, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to move into action. So there's a circuit for winning. There's the same circuit when it's hypoactive, not active enough, is what causes losing in these competitive scenarios. And Similarly, there's a circuit for quitting. There's a norepinephrine circuit in the brainstem. This was published in the last couple of years, showing that when animals or people are in constant effort, eventually that level of norepinephrine gets so high that it triggers a circuit that shuts down the motor control over the limbs, and you just say, that's it, I give up, I'm done. So these mechanisms were hardwired into us. We all have them. Whether or not it's from evolution, Mother Nature, God, the universe, it's irrelevant to the discussion that these circuits exist in everybody. And I think it's a select few people who really understand that forward action is what drives these circuits. It's the ability to take that agitation, stress, agitation, increase our focus, and they bias us for movement. And nature wanted that. They want us to move forward in the face of challenge, not to be quiescent. We weren't sitting around battling tigers and saber-toothed tigers all the time. More likely we were in caves and we were getting hungry and we had to go out and search for things. Agitation and stress were designed to get us up and move us. And when we try and fight that too much and we try and quiet that stress, that actually can be problematic. You have to decide, are you going to try and quiet stress, or are you going to actually lean into action? That's a critical choice point for everybody who's experienced anything negative or positive for that matter.
Your generation has the best teachers in the world. They're on YouTube. They're not in colleges. I mean, the people I run into on YouTube, they blow me away. This guy, George Gammon, I don't know if you've seen him, the Rebel Capitalist. Holy mackerels, that guy, young guy, about your age, brilliant. And there's Brett Johnson, Milkshake Theory. I'm basically a finance guy. So I hang out with finance guys. You know, I don't watch Martha Stewart in Home Cooking. You know, I don't know if she has a website or not, but I don't watch them. It's just, I like to eat. I don't like to cook. You know what I mean? So all those things. So I would say George Gammon, Gammon, he's fantastic. This guy Patrick Bet-David is fantastic. London Real, Brian Rose, they have the best teachers on. So you have more access to great teachers than ever before via YouTube and your little handheld devices. But it's up to you to choose, what do I want to learn? And so I'm blown away at how many great teachers are in the world today. I'm very impressed. That's why I'm honored to be on your program, because I'm the old guy, I'm phasing out. And I can pass on the best I know. But I'm definitely not going to say to go back to school and get your master's degree and look for a safe, secure job and climb the corporate ladder. I'm not your teacher there. That's my poor dad.
All right, so I want to tell you this story. I got this DM about 2 weeks ago. Someone DMs me on Instagram. I'm at Ramit, and she goes, Ramit, I loved your book. Thank you. I read it. I just finished it 2 weeks ago. Anyway, I sold all my investments, and the market went up like 12%. So what do you think I should do? And I was like, did you miss pages 0 through 300? So this is, it's a teachable moment, because I want everyone to understand how to think about your investments. And you're exactly right. When you invest something, you are not investing for money that you need in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. This is money that is long-term money. And every study, and you can see them cited in chapter 6 of my book, shows that long-term passive investing, that is investment you're not checking every day, you're not trading, all that is bullshit. Money you automatically contribute once a month and it goes in there, that's the money that makes you serious cash, like real, like multi-millions of dollars. Most people do not understand that. And again, remember what I said earlier, most people have never read a single book about personal finance, so they have all kinds of kooky theories about money that they don't even know what they're saying. Do it for the tax deduction and all this crazy shit. I'm like, pick up a book. That's what you really need to do. And so when you learn this stuff, you learn that your money is there for the long term. You learn that costs really matter. You probably shouldn't be checking your investments more than once every month. Once every 6 months is even better. And you do not need to be selling it, especially now, unless you are truly, truly out of money. And for most, I would say like 99% of the people who write me asking if they should sell are not even close to an emergency situation. They're just afraid. Fear is the last thing you want. It will cost you dearly.
So the thrust of my life is going to be I've always saw it as a mindset thing. Just not that solves the entire problem, but what is my particular skill set? Where do I think that I'm insightful? So by no means am I saying this is all you need to do. I'm just saying this is my area of expertise and the small piece that I'll be able to contribute. So I've always saw, imagine me, let me give you a little bit of background on myself, and for anybody that's watching now and doesn't know who I am. For an extra credit assignment in college, I was asked to go in and help a kid in South Central Los Angeles, one of the worst school districts in the country, to go in and just help him, like mentor him a little bit for 8 weeks, help him get his homework done. So I go and do that. It's supposed to be 8 weeks, and he's a wild problem. And of course, they're trying to get him out of class, which is exactly why they pick him. He's throwing tantrums and all this. And he says to me, or one day I say, you're supposed to tell him at week 6, I'm only coming for 2 more weeks. I tell him, he freaks out. Nuclear explosion. The kid is going bananas. I'm 18 at this point. I've never seen a human act like this ever in my life. I was beside myself. And I finally get him to calm down. I said, look, is this because I said I was only coming for 2 more weeks? He says, yes. I said, cool. Look, man, I will make you a deal. If you will do your homework the second that I get here, because he used to delay and end up keeping me for longer than I was supposed to. If you'll do your homework the second I get here, as long as I live in Los Angeles, I will help you with your homework. Is it a deal? He says, yes. Becomes an 8.5-year relationship. Okay, now that plants a seed in my soul. I'm watching this kid struggle, but I'm young and stupid. I don't know how to help him. So I'm like, all right, my mission is to show him that beautiful things exist and show him that somebody loves him. So I'm dirt poor at this time, but I take him to see movies in Beverly Hills because I'm like, movie costs the same no matter where you see it, but in one place you're surrounded by green, palm trees. It's beautiful. And so I would do that, and then, long story short, he gets sucked into foster care, moved farther and farther away, we lose contact. Flash forward 15 years later, I now have 3,000 employees. 1,000 of them grew up just like this kid did. And so I know how this plays out. And I'm devastated. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, how do I get them to think in a way that's going to propel them forward? And I start getting obsessed with this notion of skill set and getting them to build a skill set and to be able to go out. So, okay, this becomes my mission. I'm going to help people think in the right way that will lead them to acquire the skills that's going to be necessary to move forward. Then people hit me with the learn to code meme, right? Like telling people to improve and get better is like bullshit. So I'm like, okay, something is making people feel some kind of way, and it's stopping them from taking what I think are acts of self-preservation. So my thing is, hey, the system might be broken, and I'm glad you're doing it. That's not my interest. I'm never going to get involved in politics. I cannot tell you how much that does not interest me. I'm very glad people like you were doing it, but that didn't suck me in.